sometime mid last year in 2022, I received the shock of my life. And this shock was that I had depression. The reason why I was so shell shocked is because I never saw it coming. I never thought I would be someone who would say I am battling depression because of a number of reasons. For some reason, have always felt like I've always had things under control. Although it sounds very uneducated, I do know that having things under control doesn't mean that you cannot struggle with depression. But in my mind, I thought I'm good. I know how to handle pressure. I know how to handle disappointment. I know how to handle high levels of stress because I've been doing it all my life. But what I didn't realize was that the tide had shifted and I was dealing with something that was way, way stronger and more intense than I could have ever anticipated. So I had been battling health issues, physical health issues, for a long time. And because of that, I was constantly in and out of doctor's appointments and hospitals and stuff like that because just my health was not okay and I had been going through a lot. So whenever I felt like I was in a low mood or I was really stressed or I didn't know what to do or I just felt down, I always attributed it to the fact that I was physically unwell. So I never really thought much about it. I was like, look, it's logical. We have been sick for a very long time. We are also not working. Some goals that you have are yet to be achieved. I wanted to pursue a master's and it just wasn't working out, partly because I was sick and then just a lot was going on. And at the time, I thought there were very logical excuses as to why I was feeling the way that I was feeling. And I thought it was normal. So I never gave it a second thought. But what was happening is I had been going to my doctors for, like I said, for a long time. And I was exhibiting some serious symptoms, really serious symptoms. And I went through a lot of tests, blood work, scans, x-rays, stuff like that, you name it. Just talking to him, trying to figure out what's really going on with me. Most of the tests came back clear and they were like, look, your tests are coming back clear, which really concerns me because there is no logical physical explanation as to why you are exhibiting some of the symptoms that you are. That's when we started talking a little bit more and he was asking me more questions like, how are you doing? Are you sleeping well? And of course, I was not sleeping well. In fact, there were a lot of issues that had been going on prior to that. But like I said, I always thought everything that was going wrong was because I was sick. And even if I felt irritated or irritable, I would always think like, of course I'm irritable. I've been sick for a very long time. But I didn't realize that I was actually battling depression. And some of the symptoms that were going on in my life is I had lost appetite. I was not eating at all. And I would always say, no, I don't want to eat because when I do eat, then I'll start to have some stomach problems. So I stayed away from food altogether. And the more that I stayed away from food, the more that I always had, the stomach issues. And it was just a mess. I was really struggling to sleep. I had a serious case of sleep apnea. And no matter how much I tried this, I would just lie in my bed and my imagination would go wild. I would just be thinking about so many random things. But I never thought it was out of the ordinary because I've always considered myself as someone who had a wild imagination, and I just thought as soon as my head hits the pillow, then my imagination comes alive. That's what I thought. I lost interest in my hobbies and even things that I used to love to do before, like singing, writing songs, making music, watching movies. I just couldn't be bothered. Sometimes I would just go on the internet and you'd ask me, what were you doing? And I wouldn't even know because I wasn't watching a movie. I wasn't doing anything that I could actually say I was doing this. I'd just be aimlessly scrolling through maybe social media. And I think it also played a role in just giving me a lot of pressure. I would constantly be reminded of the things that were missing in my life. I would see my friends getting married. I would see my friends, my age mates, my peers and colleagues starting their families, their careers are popping, and there was nothing going on for me. Social media, Instagram, was like a reminder of the things that I didn't have in my life, and it started to make me feel worthless and valueless. I'd be like, what am I doing here? But still, it never rang alarm bells in me. I just thought it's pretty normal to look at other people and go like, oh, they're doing so much better than I am. This sucks. I should have known. I mean, the symptoms were there. Apart from that, I also stopped socializing with people. I just didn't feel like it. And again, strangely enough, I felt like my excuses were valid. I felt like they were legitimate. I would be like, of course, I don't want to I socialize with people. You know, it's very stressful to move around with a wheelchair. The reality is, even if the socialization didn't come with the need to actually physically travel to a different place or something like that, I still wasn't interested. My friends would call me, I would have my phone off all day, or I wouldn't pick, I would just watch it ring and be like, oh, I can't be bothered. I don't have the energy for this. I'm too tired, I'm too ill, I'm too sick, I'm not feeling well. And it was logical to me. It was logical. I'm like, of course, it makes sense. Who wants to chit chat with people when they are not feeling their best? And I started to distance myself from my friends, and I'm not proud of this. In fact, I'm very uncomfortable to admit this, but I have friends that I just stopped talking to for no reason. I was just like, you know what, I'm not gonna talk to this guy anymore, and I just stopped. At the back of my mind, I felt like I was burdening people, because you know how it's like when people go like, how are you? And although sometimes people are actually genuinely asking how you're doing, sometimes social etiquette requires you to just say, I'm fine, I'm good, what's up, how are you, I'm alright, which I didn't always do. Sometimes I would be that guy who would say, dude, I'm not doing well, please help me pray, please talk to me, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, what can you say to me, and stuff like that. So I started feeling like I'm asking for a lot from people. I had this nagging feeling at the back of my mind that said, Aaron, you have really become a Debbie Downer, and people don't want to associate with you anymore now because your stories are now always so negative. The only thing you are ever doing is complaining and complaining and complaining. And yes, it's true, nobody wants to associate with someone who complains all the time. But that is not really what I was doing. I was actually explaining to people what was going on with me, and I regret that I didn't continue doing so, because at least someone would have picked it up early on and told me that, look bro, it sounds like there's a lot that is going on with you. I think you may need to seek for medical help from a professional, mental health assistance from a professional. It would have helped me, but then I isolated myself, and it didn't help anyone, and it just made things even worse. And now looking back at it in hindsight, I don't know why I let all of that slide. I guess that is how depression works or operates. I guess I stopped looking forward to anything. Nothing excited me anymore. If someone was getting married, I'd be like, not gonna go to the wedding, I'm not gonna attend. It matter how close I was to them, nothing excited me. I didn't look forward to anything. I felt like everything was draining my energy, and I thought I'm reserving my energy towards getting better, feeling better, becoming healthier. But I didn't understand that I was actually neglecting myself even more by doing that. I also realized that I was struggling to concentrate on anything. Yeah, it was a real struggle. I was trying to write some stuff those days. There were some applications that I was working on. I would try to write an essay, and my mind, I even started questioning my own intelligence. I'm like, I used to be able to do this. Maybe I'm losing it. Honestly, that's what I started believing about myself, because that's how intense the lack of focus and concentration was. I could not string a paragraph together, which is alarming to me or to anyone who knows me personally, because they will tell you that I may not be very good at a lot of things, but I sure do know how to express myself in written word. So that was very surprising to me. So as I continued to explain everything that was going on, and my doctor was listening to me and stuff like that, eventually after a few more sessions, they came to a conclusion that I actually did have depression, and I needed to be put on antidepressants. And like I said, I was shell shocked when I got the news. I just wasn't expecting it. In today's lingo, they would say I was shook at. It shook me. Honestly, it did. It was explaining to me how antidepressants work. It was going in through one ear and just going out through the other, just like that. I was failing to internalize anything because I was just in a state of shock. And I'm ashamed to say this is uncomfortable. It doesn't paint me in the best light. My initial thoughts after discovering that I'd been diagnosed with depression were feelings of shame. I felt ashamed. I felt very, very ashamed. I was so embarrassed. And the reason why was I felt like I have such a strong support system, family and friends alike, people who love me, people who cheer me on, people who support me, people who encourage me when I am not doing my best. And I felt like I was letting them down. I felt like, oh man, they are going to think we are doing everything we can to help this guy and to make his life as comfortable as possible. And then he has the nerve to become depressed. Like, dude, are you even grateful for what we do for you? I know it sounds so silly right now that I say it after the storm is over, but in that time, it was a legitimate scare that I had. I was like, how am I ever going to tell people that I need to tell that this is what is going on? They are going to think that maybe they are not doing enough for me or they have let me down somehow. And yet I knew that wasn't the case. So I felt ashamed, really ashamed. And I honestly didn't have any reason to, because when I did tell the people that I needed to tell, I received nothing but love and support. And I'll always be grateful for that. So I don't even know what I was ashamed of. But definitely those feelings of shame and embarrassment were there. I also felt guilty. That was another strong emotion that I had. I felt guilty because I thought I'm a fraud. I am a fraud. People who know me in real life, or even some of you here on YouTube, might have gathered this already. I'm someone who loves to be positive most of the times. I am that guy who's always saying to others, you can do this, you're strong, you're worthy, you have the confidence, you have the ability, yes you can. I'm that guy. Even on social media, those who follow me on social media, please do. If you don't, it's Aaron Shu across all social media platforms. I'm always that guy who always has something positive to say, a word of encouragement here and there to somebody. That's me. That's who I am. So I said, if those people actually do learn that I have depression, they are going to think I'm a fraud. They're going to be like, oh, look at this guy. He always poses as someone who's so positive. He seems like his faith is so strong and unshakable, which is not true, because we are all human beings and we do have our ups and downs always. No one is immune to that, no matter who you are, where you're from. We all do have those moments. But that is what I was thinking in the moment. I'm like, people are going to think I'm a fraud. It still beats me today. I don't even know why I thought that way, but I did. And like I said, I'm not proud of it, but it did happen. Another reason why I felt like a fraud is, as a Christian, I felt like being depressed was sort of like a sign that I didn't trust the Lord enough to take care of me or to provide all my needs like He always has. I felt like, if there's anything that says you don't believe what you claim to believe, it's being depressed. And I know how this sounds, but please, I do hope you get where I'm coming from. I'm not saying that's the reality of how things are, but that is certainly how I felt in the moment. And I was like, even if I do tell my friends that I am struggling with depression and anxiety, they are going to go like, what happened to believing in God, man? What's wrong with you? Come on, you know what the word says. You know what the scriptures say, man. And shockingly enough, I didn't get that either. Yes, I was reminded of who I am and whose I am and stuff like that, but it was never in a malicious way from my friends. They were like, you know what, this happens, but just keep on believing. You know, God has brought you this far. He's not going to let you down. And they were also supportive of me getting the actual medical help that I needed to get in order to get better. And if I had known that earlier, I wouldn't have wasted so much time dreading opening up to people that I needed to open up to. So those were some of the lessons that I took away with me from that experience. As soon as I started taking the antidepressants, things started working better for me. I started sleeping better. My appetite improved. I also noticed that I didn't feel as heavy as I did before. Interestingly enough, that is actually when I started realizing how depressed I had been prior to that. I guess it was because this was something that didn't happen overnight. It happened over a long period of time. I didn't realize how heavy the burden I was carrying on my shoulders was. Only when I was put on antidepressants did I started to realize, as I got some relief, that wow, I had been lugging a lot of weight behind me. After a short period of time, I was taken off the medication because I didn't need it anymore, and I haven't been on it for almost a year now, which is really great because it's a reflection that I'm doing well. My stress levels, I'm managing things better now, and looking back, I am glad that things happened the way they did, because who knows where that rod could have led me. I'm so glad that I was caught in the nick of time and I was able to get the help that I needed, which leads me to the main point why I am making this video. Now, I am specifically talking to people who may also be struggling with similar things: depression, feelings of hopelessness, unworthiness, anxiety, fear of tomorrow, the future. The first thing that you need to do is to realize that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay. Acknowledge that. It's not a reflection of your failure. It is just a fact of life. Sometimes we are just not okay, and we need to come to terms with that. And as soon as you come to terms with that, please do seek for help. There are resources out there that you can make use of. Ask around. Don't keep it to yourself. Ask around. Talk to somebody. I strongly advise you to look for a mental health professional who will be able to help you and assess you professionally so that you do get the proper attention and treatment that you need. I cannot stress enough how important it is. And if you do not have immediate access to a mental health professional, try to talk to someone in the meantime as you're looking for the professional. Try to talk to someone, to open up to someone. Don't keep things bottled up.